Hello, everybody. This is Kate Foggo, and that's Julie Hurt. We are making light to humans being. So this episode has wandered into territory that is, I won't say close to my heart. I wish it wasn't, but it's very close, not so much my heart, very close to my reality. And turns out is to Julie too. So we've got a lot of similarities here. So today we are talking about mothers, family dynamics, particular dementia, as both Julie and I have mothers who have dementia at different stages. So we talk about the feelings around that, the things that happen around that. We'll put in the show notes anything that we mention that might be helpful for other people. Please do join in the conversation below with any thoughts you have. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. So enjoy the show. Well, I don't know how I feel. I haven't seen my mum, Julie, for must be at least more than a couple of years now.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know if you went to see her when Stella, your sister, was in. Sorry to help Stella, but when your sister was with you. I thought you guys went to see her. No. Oh, okay.
No. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. There'll be the opportunity for lots of workarounds.
Yes, I know. That's going to be a whole area of conversation because our moms are both. Your mom has dementia or Alzheimer's dementia? It's kind of the
Alzheimer's same. Is a form of dementia. They say she has Alzheimer's, but I did a little course on different types of dementia, and her progression through Alzheimer's is not typical. So I don't know if it's. I don't know. I don't know that it makes any difference what form or whatever. I suppose there are some differences, but I also don't know if whatever makes my mother unique has served her very well in dementia. Her total arsiness, for example, has actually served her very well in dementia because she's not ill, Julie. There's nothing wrong with her and she will not be told what to do, which is actually quite a good attitude to have in dementia because she doesn't think there's anything wrong with her.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard when she was able, because obviously she would battle against everything, but now that she doesn't have to actually do anything, it's a very good attitude because she thinks she's doing everything. So she doesn't seem to have the fear as much as some people with dementia have. So whatever neural pathways exist in my mother have actually served her very well. But I am worried. It's not great to have to move her. It's a fucking long journey. And
how far? How long does it take?
8-9 hours in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Might not be that long. It's a long. I mean, it would take me 14 hours. I don't know. Stella and Rob are used to driving. I don't know.
Are you driving? Who drives her?
Oh fuck no! Sorry, no. I said to when the council wanted to move, I'm like, that's your problem. I honestly, it's the most stressful thing I can ever imagine. My sister says my mom's not that bad now, but it's about 4 years ago now. I said I am never traveling with my mother again because she'd argue with me the whole way. She lost her passport, she lost her luggage, she lost her this, she lost her that because she can't remember anything. So she can't remember anything, but she would still argue with me if I took things off her, or she'd argue with me if I tried to hold on to stuff for her, and then she'd argue with me when she lost it because it was my fault. And I was just like, I'm not doing this again. I wouldn't even drive her back from the airport in Edinburgh anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. It's just too stressful. So the idea of getting in a car, but my sister has a different relationship with her, and
my sister has, my sister's different with her, my mom, than me too.
But when my sister was caring for my mom, I could see all the same tendencies coming out in her, which I wouldn't have wished that on anyone, but it was sort of reassuring to know that it wasn't just me. It was like, as when she was living with my mother, I became the patient one because I was at the end of the phone going, well, now trying to be reasonable with her sister's like, But, how's your mum?
Well,
does she watch this?
Say what? No.
Does she watch this? No. Okay.
No, it's funny because they both parents have Facebook accounts. Both parents have email accounts. both parents have cell phones, but my dad manages all of it. Dad manages both devices, both Facebooks and both emails. So when my mom comments on something on Facebook, I know it's really my dad. It's not my mom. She doesn't go on that stuff. She'd actually...
That's a bit strange, isn't it? Your dad commenting for your mum on something your mum hasn't seen.
Well, they're all...
if I had a perfect wife, here's what she'd say.
It's
funny. Quite funny.
When he wants to say something more... Oh, how do I say it? When it's super encouraging, it's from him. When it's something that may be controversial.
So actually, your mum's actually really nice. You've just never known it. It's actually your dad sabotaging her. Oh, it's funny.
Yeah. Well, now that I think of it, of the two, she was always the confrontational one. He never was, and so it's kind of...
So you thought.
Yeah. So, but we don't have... We're right now. My dad is waiting for her physical to get scheduled, and then hopefully we can get a referral to get an assessment. That's where we are right now. So, but it's interesting just to be here to watch and get a better view of how they operate as with what's happening with her memory. And it's like she's like a needle on a record stuck in a groove, because the same story gets repeated, and then the story may change on a daily basis, sometimes not. So, and there's also a negativity streak with my mom too that can come out, particularly in the evening. She's not a dog person too, and so to have Lucas here is just rocks her world in a lot of ways. Very kind that they allow us to have him. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of feelings that it brings up, like too with me, that workarounds, all the things. So it's interesting to me to be in the thick of it, and then when I come back and like step out of it and look at it, the whole thing is fascinating and painful at the same time. And sad, because she's a businesswoman. She was one of the first retailers in my city that owned a clothing store, a female, and she had a hard time getting a loan. Like, some of the things that she's done are actually, she put my sister and I through college, because my dad's unemployment at the time was, in the industry he worked in, it was harder for him to maintain a job, and so she took that part on. I mean, some of the things that she's been able to do, and then it's not there anymore.
That's really interesting, because that's the same with my mom. When we came back to Britain, my dad couldn't work in Britain because he was a land surveyor, and that doesn't exist in Britain. Because that was from times where you're cutting up land, and obviously land's already been cut up here, or if it does exist, it's a very small thing. And so my mom started her own business and everything she must have been in her 50s by then, late 40s, 50s. Can't remember. And did all that. So that was quite good to hear you say that, because I used to really, really admire my mum, and then after I had my breakdown, had counselling, realised that she was a narcissist. That basically fucked me over for my whole life. I found it quite hard to look at the positive side. I mean, she's still my mum, but and it's almost like I've forgiven her in this age now, but you don't have to go that far back. And scenarios, if I talk about scenarios a little further back, when it was really, really stressful for me, it all comes back. And and so I find it hard to feel fondly towards her when she's vulnerable, which is so rarely. When she's vulnerable, instantaneous, all my whatever I feel for her disappears, and all I have is love for her when she's vulnerable, but that doesn't often happen. And that's quite painful in itself, actually, as you'll understand that when you see your mum vulnerable. It's a nice feeling, because then you remember that you have that compassion and love for them. But I also, being an empath, find it really hard to see someone that I love as vulnerable. And again, it actually makes me wonder about the whole word love, because I don't know what I feel for my mum. Is it just because I've known her for 53 years? Is that love? Is it just, what is love in that context? I don't know. It's not this unconditional love that we all strive for, that's for sure.
Right?
But
Yeah, it's not.
I think love as we understand it in terms of family, I think is literally, it's just, what's the word, familiarity. That's all it is. And because with familiarity, I suppose, builds a certain understanding, and within understanding, it's easier to feel not unconditional love, but you'll have moments of conditional love, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I've this stuff has been swirling ever since my mom got, well, it's not really since she got ill, it's since I had a breakdown and reassessed everything. All this stuff swirls around in my head about what is love, what is all these things with a family, where are your obligations. Now I know I have none. I have no obligations to her at all, but that doesn't mean I'd see her out in a cold. That still really hurts. And there is a bit of me, Julie, if I'm honest, and my sister admitted this, which I think is unusual, is that neither of us will ever be free of her until she's dead. Not because she no longer has that control over us, but the very virtue of her existence and the fact that she's dependent on us and dependent financially on the government, and somebody has to orchestrate all of that, and we both want to make sure that she's safe and that she's well and that she's happy. She still has a huge hold over us, and I don't think either of us will ever really be free of her until she dies, which is horrible. I also don't want her to suffer.
Yeah, that's something too that I've come to realize since I've been physically back in their house. This is not the house that I grew up in, but I never quite understood why I left. So ever since I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get out of my home.
Too.
Just like, get me out. And I thought it had to do with the town, because I would always say I'm really close to my mom and dad. I have a sister, I'm really close. Like we would talk all the time, which is like once a week. Less with my sister, actually. And I would always be, I just wanted to go. I wanted to see the world. So I lived overseas. I lived way far away in Alaska. I've always lived further than you can. It takes an effort to understand how to get home, right? It's not like I could just pop over for lunch. That ain't happening wherever I've lived. And I've lived a lot of places. So, but the moment I came home, not the moment, but right within a couple of weeks, and I started to see all the workarounds, and I could see the relation and where I got some of the workarounds from, and how they adapted and evolved to myself, and all the stuff. I was like, I'm gaining clarity as to why I left. And this idea of needing to find, first of all, my own voice, because I realize now, had I stayed, this conversation right now would not be taking place.
You don't know that, Julie. I think we all find our way. May not be an obvious way, but something inside you would have snapped.
True. We may be 70 by the time I met you instead of in our 50s.
Well, I don't know, Julie. You see, you might have, I think we are, it's like there's a time bomb. And actually, if you'd stayed, that bomb might have gone off quicker.
And maybe nastier.
Maybe you might have ended up killing somebody and had plenty of time to reflect in prison. There's hundreds of ways to skin a cat. To find your salvation, there can be all manner of catastrophes can befall you to force you to reflect on your life. But just be thankful that actually you did it your way and you didn't end up killing anybody. And
True.
That's interesting, Julie, because I did exactly the same. I left home. I was really annoyed because I left home on my 17th birthday. I wanted to leave while I was still 16, because it sounds cooler, doesn't it? I left home at 16, but I wasn't. I had a fucking cold and I couldn't. I was too ill to leave the house. So it was actually on my 17th birthday I left home.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to get away. And
yeah. If I think about it, I went to college and I didn't come back. Really. And I wouldn't even come home on the weekends, and I would only come home when the dorms were closed.
Yeah, I didn't understand these people that went home.
I still don't.
I lived in I lived in Norwich. I mean, it was the same town as them, and I'd go back occasionally when I was hungry.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose also, I don't know about you, my mother was never very nurturing, neither was my father, so there wasn't really much incentive to come home.
No,
Yeah.
no. I remember trying to just like have like if my mom was sitting on the couch, like to lay up against her and put my head like on her chest and have like a snuggle, and she would push me off. I remember that. I've always remembered that.
Are you
And that
sure we're
would
not
actually come
sisters?
back. Huh?
Are you sure we're not sisters?
I know, right?
My mom, the closest I remember ever being my mom, is she had her legs dangling in the swimming pool. Remember, we were on holiday, loved being on holiday. So this is on the East African coast, so it's absolutely beautiful. They had a swimming pool that was salt water, which isn't great because it's much nicer to have fresh water in a pool because then you can have your eyes open.
Yeah.
But she had just sitting and her legs dangling, and I was holding onto her legs, and that was just so much fun. That was like the height of fun and affection I ever got off my mum. I got about 30 seconds of it, and then she'd had enough, and that was it, and that was an end to it. But I was just like, and I think, oh my God, how sad is that? That was the height of affection. And I don't know if I've told you this story or not. I went in to get my coil put in, I think it was, and they struggled and struggled, and they kept telling me how small my cervix was and how incredible I was. I'd had children, to which I was like, you are my doctor, my notes are in front of you, I've never had children, this is now beginning to alarm me, this is the third time you've told me you don't understand how I managed to have children through this cervix, and I haven't had any. But aside from all that, a nurse came in because it was really quite painful, and she held my hand, and that made me cry. It made me cry just to have that physical affection from another woman. Well, I don't get it from Gary either. So from another human being to hold my hand just to make me feel better because it was painful, and that made me cry. And that's just me in my 40s going, I can't believe how starved of love I am. That's pathetic. So message to everybody is we all need love.
So when you say that story, here's the story that I'm reminded of from my mom. So when I was I don't know if I've ever told you this story. So when I was in the second grade, okay, we got to back up a second. My family, extended family, we are of German heritage. So
I want to say jawohl.
Yeah. And actually that's why I learned to speak German, was because of my grandparents, but that's another story. Anyway, so we're in second grade, and we would go to lunch, and in our school, the teacher would line us up single file, and then we'd walk into the cafeteria. Well, this girl in front of me says back, she comes, I don't know, we were kind of friends, and she circles around and says to me, I've got beer in my lunch bag. And I'm like, sweet, I love beer. Because we're German, we were allowed to have a little cup of beer on Sunday afternoons. It was a thing, and my grandparents started it. My parents would continue it. Beer is not a bad thing. And I had no concept of, in this country, you can't drink, most states you can't drink till you're 21. I had no concept of that. Back then it probably would have been 18, doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm all in the second grade, which means I'm like 7. So, anyway, so we go to the cafeteria. We sit in the corner of the cafeteria. We have our bag lunch or whatever. I think I had a Waltons. If you're familiar with the TV show, The Waltons, it was family in the mountains or whatever. Anyway, so I had
John Boy.
Yes, exactly. They're redoing it too, by the way. Any doesn't matter. Focus, Julie. So she opens up the beer, and we split it in lunch. I think this is great. Like, why does it? My mom packed beer. This is fantastic. So then we're done with lunch, and we go to the playground, but you pass the lunch lady. So there's this square of tables, and they have bins all around that you can throw your waste or whatever. And so my friend chucks the beer can into the bin, and some stuff comes flying out, and this huge, I mean, I'm probably like this big, right? But so to me, the lunch lady that captures us is humongo. And she's like, hey, you too. And all I need to know is that I could be in trouble. I'm out of here. And I take off running. I have no idea. And so we're out. So we go to the furthest part of the playground. And I'm thinking, okay, as recess is over, the bell starts to ring. Oh, we're good. The principal's waiting for us as we come back into the school, and pulls us aside, and we go to the principal's office. And I know I'm in trouble, but I don't understand why. But I just know, like, that whole feeling we were talking about before of like not worthy. Oh boy. So anyway, so I get into the principal's office, and it's just me, and my mom is there. And I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? What did I do? And so he starts to say, well, the reason why you're here, Julie, is because you had beer at lunch. To which I answer, I only had 2 swigs. Where I got the word swigs from, no idea. But I only had 2 swigs. And I'm like, yeah. And my mom just starts laughing. And she starts laughing at the principal. And she tries to explain to him our heritage and why and blah, blah, blah. And he's not having it. And she's like, it's really not that big of a deal. But he gets mad at her that because she's not taking it seriously, I'm not taking it seriously. So anyways, long story short, so we end up leaving. My mom explains to me the whole thing as to why. And she's like, we'll still have it at home. You just can't talk about it. And I realized, in that moment, there's rules that I don't know yet. But anyways, but her brevity and lightness about the whole thing is like, I just like, don't take it seriously. It is what it is. It's fine.
I think that's amazing, because I don't know about you as a child, but for me, telling my parents would have been much worse than any other punishment I could have got at school. I'd go home to a lot worse. So the fact that your mum stood up for you, essentially.
Yeah. You're just like, this is what it is. Yeah, because you're right. Anytime, all they had to do was say they were disappointed in me, and I would.
God.
Oh yeah. I never had to get spanked or
never grow out of that. Oh well, we got spanked. There was more humiliation.
Yeah.
My mum used to spank us with a hairbrush, but it was always come in and pull your pants down just to make it extremely humiliating. It's probably not allowed now. She'd probably get carted off for child abuse now, but it was all about humiliation, dear. There was nothing sexual in it at all. But it's just, it's horrible. Well, when I told my counselor stuff like that, they were all absolutely horrified. I just assumed that was normal.
Yeah, no, I still hear that language too. Depending on in parts of the family that live in other parts of the country, I still hear like, that's absolutely normal. So anyway, but moms, so much to explore there too, just with all the things that are going on with our moms. I feel like there's so much to explore, and just how to even navigate, because that's the thing, like I've looked for support groups or resources to just places to talk about what is happening with her and how can I best help her. And there's nothing.
Obviously it'd be different in Britain, in the US, but I've told you about the book Contented Dementia. But my sister, there was groups of carers. You might find carers on Facebook. Carers for dementia or something like that. You might find dementia groups on Facebook.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about, I was thinking of like having a conversation in person. Why? I don't know.
Why would you do that, Julie?
I don't know.
You don't need to restrict yourself to your small town you hate so much, but realize there's nothing to do with the small town. There's people all over the world that can help you. But it's a difficult one. It's very difficult. But you'd be surprised how long people muddle along. Because Gary used to get like this about his dad, when or even Gordon, his uncle, before he died, he'd be like, oh well, he doesn't ever clean out his cupboards, and he's got all his shite in his house now, and you're like, I suppose it's when we started exploring what dementia would mean for my mother and how long she could live alone, unless somebody is actually unsafe, like when my mum started putting water in the microwave and things like that. You could open the microwave and all this water would come out. You think, how did you achieve this? Or she started like trying to unplug things and undoing plugs with screwdrivers and stuff like that. Until someone is or leaves the iron on and burns the house down, until someone is actually unsafe, unless they want help or want support, there's actually very little you can do.
Right.
You can't section somebody just because they live in shit.
I think at this point, if it wasn't, if she was by herself, she wouldn't eat. That would be the thing.
Well, as you know, there's a natural ending to all these things. No, but seriously, it's like, why are we so obsessed with keeping people alive?
It's true.
If having dementia means that she never remembers to eat and she can't recognize the signs of needing to eat, is that not her body saying, okay, time to go? I don't know, maybe that sounds really harsh, and I know, you know, I won't say if that was my mother, but if it was a friend of mine, would I still feel the same?
Yeah.
I suppose it depends. To me, it depends how much joy they get in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she still has joy. She's a big
But
seducer.
would she really never eat? She has no pleasure in eating?
Some things. Brad made spaghetti bolognese last night. He makes a mean bolognese sauce, even though I try not to eat meat. That's the one thing I will eat.
Get soy mince, love.
She ate it. She ate every drop of it. So
maybe you're just not feeding her the right food then.
could be. Yeah. Yeah.
So my mum never used to eat cakes and that, but once she got dementia, she disappeared down to Tesco's, which was the only shop that she could sort of walk to. And apart from buying herself a few bottles of wine, she always came back with all the knockdown priced cream cakes. she started putting on weight like she'd never put on weight before. She just, because she'd have no concept of how much she'd eaten. So she just, and when we had her 80th birthday, my sister got this beautiful cake made. So it was like two tiers, but just on top of each other, and sort of like it was flowers, but like tropical flowers in icing. Just stunning, just so beautiful. And so a lot of it had been eaten, but all the icing had been left, all the flowers. We came back and my mum had eaten a whole lot. Like she just, which I think is hilarious. So why not? It's her cake. But my sister's like, I can't believe she's eating like 3 pounds of icing overnight. It's not going to kill her, is it? Like, you see, I love that because my mother was so controlled about what she ate before. And so judgmental about me and my weight, and I think that's hilarious that she sits and eats cream buns now. Mm-hmm. Why not? Knock yourself out. Something's going to kill you. The dementia's not going to kill you soon enough. So just, I don't know, die of sugar overdose, whatever. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. You know what I like about this too, and my guides even stepped in, and like the ability to laugh through this.
It's hilarious. You have to.
Okay, because I'll just say, like, watching this and whatever, however far we are, doesn't matter, but just even watching it is hard enough to do. But the little moments of laughing about what happens or how they've changed or all of that, like, we have to have the laughter in it in order to make it through, I think. But it also celebrates them even in this state as well as how they were before.
You'll see a different side of your mum.
Okay. Huh? What?
You'll see a different side of your mum.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not in a good way, but
right now, not so much. No.
But here's the benefit, and this is the other thing I wish someone told me. When because my mum's really combative. Now, well, not now, but then I don't know what she's like. I haven't seen her for that long. But when I go in, well, a good thing is she can't wait to get off the phone now. Whereas before I could never shut her up. Now she can't wait to get off the phone because she can't really be bothered speaking to me because I'm not important to her because I can't give her anything she needs. So that's fine, So I could just phone her up. 5 minutes later, she's like, "Well, lovely of you to call," and she wants to go and do something else. I'm like, "Fine, job done, whatever."
Yeah.
But the other good thing is when I go and see her. This is when she was still living on her own in Edinburgh, and God, that was stressful. But when things went wrong, I could back out of the conversation, go into another room, give her a few minutes, come back and start the conversation again. Now, she may be, and this is the thing that in contented dementia they explain, so she may be feeling, she'll still be feeling, so you have to tread carefully. But she won't remember why. So you can tread carefully and start the conversation again. Mm-hmm. You ever watch Groundhog Day?
Yes.
That's what it's like. You learn at each corner what is the acceptable answer and what is the acceptable question. So so you can renegotiate. So when things just get too bad, you just leave the room. Now that you, as I say, you'll have left her rankled, so you might have to come back and start some nonsense conversation to calm her down because she'll be angry, but she won't know why. But then you know what to avoid. Yeah. You can never get trapped in a conversation with them again. You just leave the room and they forget. And I used to notice, I'd look at my mom, she'd be raging at me and I'd think, you have no idea what you're arguing about anymore. Like she would just know she was angry and she'd still, but if I stopped and said, what are you annoyed about? She'd be like, and you could see nothing. She'd have forgotten what it was all about. She was just so fired up and so used to arguing that she would just keep the argument going, even though she had no recollection of what it was about. But you can use that to your advantage. You just come in and start talking a completely different conversation as if it never happened.
Yeah. I'm going to remember. I have to get the book. I will get the book too. It's been on my list. I will have access to my own library in a little bit. Right now I'm using my dad's library card, so he sees all the things. Anyway.
That's okay. It'd be good for him to read it.
Well, yeah, I tried to get him to read another book about it that someone else had recommended. My husband's ex-wife, her mom died of Alzheimer's, and she recommended The 36-Hour Day, I think it's called. Found it fascinating, super helpful. I'll find it again. We can post these in the show notes. And I tried to get him to read it, and he hasn't. That's another story. Anyway, but when
you can't do this for him, Julie.
No, I know, and that's the other thing. It's this interesting dance, and I'll say interesting because sometimes it's infuriating, sometimes it's sad, sometimes but I'll just say interesting. I know it's their journey. I know it's hers. I know it's his. I know it's them as a couple. It's theirs. And so I have to honor how he wants to handle it too. There's also a moment when it's my sister and I get affected, or we can help with certain technology, or there's things we can do. And it's also this dance of father-daughter, mother-daughter, but I'm also in my 50s. It's not like I'm not been around the block a couple times. Like there's things, so it's just this really intricate little dance. But at the same time, you can also just I can think, okay, wait, what am I supposed to do right now? Let it go. They've got this or whatever. Anyways, what was I going to say? There was something about the book, Contented, and arguing. Oh, I know what it was. So I talk about her in a way, it's like a needle on the record. For those of you who are not familiar with vinyl records, but there's grooves on them and the needle gets stuck on it.
And you just say the same, and you would just say the same, and you would just say the same, and you would just say the same thing again.
And the record would do that. And so that's what happens. One of her grooves is she has this thing with people that are overweight, larger, and she'll call them out. Usually we're here and it's on television, but when we go out to the grocery store, she'll call them out.
And I thought that was just my mum.
Oh, and
hasn't she put on weight? No,
it can be loud enough that people can.
She's such a pretty girl, but she's so fat. What?
Well, mine will say, well, don't they have a mirror at home? Yeah, mine will say, well, don't they have a mirror at home that they can see how they look before they go? And I'm like, oh. So when I first got here, the light just flickered. That's funny. So when I first got here, I would say, okay, Mom, when we see them, we're going to send them love and health, love and health, love and health. Well, that didn't stick. So now I'm thinking, so, okay, there's a thing where if you have a reactive dog, you can tie a yellow scarf to the leash. And if you're in the know, you'll know your dog's reactive, or people know that dog's reactive. So I'm almost like, I need to create something like this, or no filter,
Yeah.
Dementia has no filter. Please don't take offense. Just light. Yeah.
But the other thing, here's what Stella and I do, and I have texted this to Stella when Stella took over looking after my mom. I would just send a line after line of, you are not responsible, you are not responsible, you are not responsible, you are not responsible. Because she's like, my mom will go in to see a doctor. If there's any person of colour, my mom will assume, that they can't possibly be British. They must have been either from the West Indies or from Africa, and if it's Africa, is it East Africa? And then she'll start speaking Swahili to them. So anybody who is not white, she will, she just, and you're just like, just Mom, they're probably more British than you are, just shut up.
Yeah.
But then it's like, they must see hundreds of that generation, because they're all like that, right? It's not just your mum and my mum. And it's like, you are not responsible for what your mum says. Yeah. And you just have to remember that you are not responsible. You're not responsible. But I love the idea. I think you should get her a little yellow ribbon.
Yeah.
And B, get her a t-shirt that says, please excuse me, I have no manners, or I have no filter. Or that's a great idea. I'm going to get my mum a hat.
yeah, what would my mom normally see? This is the thing. I have to integrate it to, I feel, then this is the thing. It brings up like, am I being sneaky?
It doesn't matter. Whatever makes you feel better. It doesn't hurt her, does it?
No, no.
And
I just want someone
and
getting
the potential of her hurting someone and then seeing that and thinking, okay, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. I'm so sorry. My mother has no manners. Please excuse her. I think that's hilarious.
yeah. Oh. Yeah, okay. I have to think about this because when
We could have a whole range of t-shirts.
right? I just think there's something, yes, something. Just so a little vest she would, I don't know. Shopping bag, maybe. No, I don't know. I'll think it. Yeah, I gotta figure it. Yeah. It's a thought. Something.
Or even if it's just something you stick on her back that she won't know is there.
Oh, it's not bad.
But I suppose you don't want people pointing at her and laughing. She might notice.
Yeah, I don't want people laughing. I don't think it's, I think too, there's a undercurrent maybe of like, this is a bigger thing than I think people are willing to talk about. I don't think people, well, particularly their generation, they don't want to talk about it. I think it's affecting more.
The rudeness.
No, just dementia, Alzheimer's as a whole.
Because I was going to say that rudeness has probably always been there, Julie.
Oh.
It's just she's not as subtle now. Because my mum has always been rude.
Yeah, no.
It's just she
all the filters
cares less. Now that she's older, she doesn't care. She's not as considerate. But the words that she uses and the things that she says has always been there.
Yeah. No, the filters are falling away is what's happening, which is also sad for me in its of itself, because then you see, I guess, more true. That's what I'm afraid or sad that I'm looking at, is that that true person is more.
But you see, this is what we had so much back and forth about this for the morning show as well. It's all perspective, right? Yeah. Nobody's saying it's right, but things that we say, and we talked about this in our white privilege and all of that, things that we say younger generations are more sensitive to now, right? I don't think that necessarily makes you a bad person. It doesn't necessarily make you cruel. It's just that you're not aware.
Yeah.
So when your mum and my mum and talks about, you see, she even talks about fat people. Now this is interesting. I read a book again, Amerikanhah, I think it's called, and it's about a Nigerian woman that goes to live in the States.
I have that book. I just never read it.
Right. And one of the lines in it is, she says, in Nigeria, fat is just an adjective. Like, it's because people don't see fat people. In fact, fat people were considered beautiful a long time, probably changed now, but because the fat people were the well-fed people, therefore they were the elite, if you like. But she says it's only in America is fat now become like a moral dilemma, that it's just a word. So when my mum talks about someone as being fat, to her it's a word like saying they're tall. Or when we talk about thin people, we don't realize that that's just as insulting, not insulting, but it's just as personal. I have a friend who's quite short, and it would never occur to me that she would be upset about jokes about her height, but she told me straight up, and I was like, okay, because it just hadn't occurred to me.
Yeah.
But then why should I don't want people to call me fat, so why? But it had never occurred to me that short was an insult, or that tall is an insult if you're very tall. I have a friend whose husband is 6'7" or 6'8". And it just water off a duck's back to him. But, there are people who don't want you to go, oh my goodness, how tall you are. They're like, ooh, it's just a word. It doesn't make her evil.
No, it doesn't. It's the judging part because the judging part it's not kind.
But if you and I had not been exposed to that, Julie, we would not know how wrong and hurtful it is.
Right.
And one of the things I struggle with is I still do all that. I know it's wrong, and I catch myself, and I'm aware of it, but there is still a little dialogue that's always looking at other people to see what I can pick out, to say, oh, it's all right, she's not perfect, she's got a bit of an arse on her, hasn't she? That's all right. I feel good enough now because I've managed to pick you apart. And I hate myself for it, but I'm aware of it. And it runs so deep.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's so interesting because I look like her. I can sound like her. So my sister will call me out, but she is like more like my dad. And I keep trying to bring that to light to her. When she gets on my case, she'll go, oh my God, mom just came out of your mouth. Like, and I take it as an insult. It's not always an insult. She's just smart. She's a smart woman, was a smart woman. Still smart.
Faye was a business lady.
Yeah.
Faye was a pioneer of her time. Faye has a beautiful name. Faye has 2 beautiful children. Faye keeps a nice house. Faye can, I don't know what else Faye does, but there's all sorts of things your mum did. What you need to do is get there before your sister and say, oh my God, my mum just came out my mouth. Because if she didn't say it, you would laugh about it.
Yeah.
The amount of times Stella and I go, oh my God, I sound like my mother.
Yeah.
But I hear you, because Gary will say that and then I have to kill him.
Yes. Brad will do the same thing and I have to kill him too.
Do you not know me at all?
Right.
And the other thing Gary keeps saying is, oh, you're getting like your mum, we're going to have to put you in a home with your mother. It's not even funny. So if I forget where my glasses are or anything, it's like, oh my God.
Oh, I know.
You're going to have an adjoining room with your mother.
I know. And it's interesting. I've actually talked to my sister about that too. It's like, because I'll say, anytime I forget something, whether it's something he just told me or where something is, then he'll say something, oh, you're going down the same path. And I said that to my sister the other day, and her husband does that to her too. And I'm just like, it's infuriating because it's like,
you know what it is?
True.
It's, and I know that this is sexist, but it's a male female thing. Ditzy women having their periods and taking vapors or whatever it is. It's this idea that if you show any sort of weakness on that, then obviously you're completely deranged. Your hormones have got the better of you. You're a nervous wreck, and it's that whole idea about women being sort of flaky and all. I hate that.
It's so not true, especially as I study the divine feminine and divine masculine. It's but that's all other things we get to talk about too. So
I'm so excited.
I know. Thank you for joining us today for Making Light to Humans Being. Kate Foggo and myself, Julie, here. We were talking about our mothers in particular, with the challenges that we face with their dementia. If you have any comments, we would very much love to hear from you about anything that you're going through as far as aging parents, parents with dementia, parents with other illnesses, other ways that you find to laugh through all of this too would actually be really helpful. Anything you can share or other topics as far as that goes, other things that we can talk about or address or answer questions on, whatnot. Feel free to leave those in the show notes. Also, our Facebook and Instagram pages are linked below. And we'd love to hear from you just to create this dialogue. As I said, it's been hard to find some support. Hopefully this is helping you find some support, but please do reach out and let us know if we can be of service in any other way. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm Julie here. This is Kate Foggo, and we are Making Light to Humans Being. Have a good one.